Hi, you guys. I just finished Bible study. I was asked to speak about women of the Bible who have poor character, who are the villains of the Bible, and all really, majority came from the Old Testament. And so I will share, actually God gave me something during the middle of Bible study about all of these women. Yes, Jezebel was at the top of the list. But all of these women share some component of Jezebel and some kind of characteristic that is really due to poor spiritual character of not trusting, believing who God is and in his character and in his will that he has. So I'll share that with you guys. Okay, so how did this come to be? A friend asked for a Bible study on women or people of poor character, actually women of bad character in the Bible. And I was like, oh, okay, we'll do that. I think that would be great for Halloween. I know we are children of God. We do not celebrate Halloween. Miss me with all the little hoopla. But these women are scary because there are more things scary than ghosts and goblins and this made up stuff. These spirits, actually, we were talking about that in Bible study. They are so prominent in this land, so strong, especially the spirit of Jezebel, which I have to fight on every accord. Every job, there's a spirit of Jezebel. I mean, I guess me being naive, not expecting it, but anywho, controlling manipulative people is just a spirit that I've been fighting all my life. And I'm like, God, really? I guess that says something about me. Like, when you gonna learn how to deal with these type of people, because they ain't going nowhere. Been around since biblical days. So anyways, I'll start. Actually, I want to start with two honorable mentions, which I did stay in the Bible study, was Rahab and Tamar. So I feel like both of them were kind of justified in their acts. Let's start with Tamar. She actually was the daughter-in-law of one of the tribes of Judah, and she went off and disguised herself as a prostitute and hid herself, I guess her face, because she ended up sleeping with her father-in-law because he wouldn't marry her off to one of his sons. In their culture at the time, she was married to his older son. He died. Married the second son. He died. And then Judah was like, listen, I'll marry you when the next one comes of age. But he didn't do that. He reneged. He went back on his word. And so in the spirit of pettiness is what I believe, but also desperation and controlling and not trusting God, she went on her own merry way, disguised herself, sat outside of a temple that she knew, I guess, he frequented because he came by, slept with her, and she was like, as a form of payment, give me your, I think it was his cane, it was something that was like he was known for, and he gave it to her. Later on, word comes out, your daughter-in-law, who ain't married to nobody, is pregnant, and he wanted to kill her. And she was like, okay, but here's the gift, or the money, that this is how the person paid me, and it was his item. And so he realized he was the like, how you gonna try to kill her for being a hoe and you want to? I'm sorry, God. Anyways, he ends up actually celebrating Tamar because she had twin sons, and Tamar's in the line of Jesus as well because he came from the tribe of Judah. Now, who else is in the line of succession for Jesus? And this is not necessarily redempting about them. Of course, it's amazing. But Rahab, I felt like Tamar was lied to so much and strung along so much that she went out and made things happen on her own. And maybe that's why I need to pray it, because baby, when you lie to me so many times, I don't want to hear no more lies. I go do it myself, boo. So pray for me. Now, Rahab, she did treachery, but not to Jesus people. She did it to the people she was from or lived with. She was a prostitute, and she hid spies for Joshua in Jericho. Then she lied to her countrymen, her fellow countrymen. It's like, nah, no spies ain't here. I don't know who told you that. They left the city. You might want to go chase them. Meanwhile, they was up in her attic, okay? And she was like, hey, I know you guys worship the one true God, so I'm gonna hide you. And she ends up helping the Israelites, and of course, the walls of Jericho fall down and they take over the city, and she's awarded, she's married, and she's in the lineage of Jesus. So yeah, those are honorable mentions. We will go to Jezebel. Number 1, the spirit of manipulation with power. There is nothing worse than someone who has power and is manipulative. It is conniving. It is revengeful. And that is this queen. She was the daughter of a king, a priestly king in Tyre, and they worship Baal and Asher, something with an A. So Jezebel is married to Ahab, and instead of using her voice and her femininity to speak to the inner God in him and the righteousness in him, like our girl from a previous Bible study, Abigail did for David, instead she spoke to his lesser demons, and she goes on a killing spree, killing all of God's people, prophets, and to the point where another man who feared God, Obadiah, he hides 150 of them in a cave and feeds them. And Elijah, the prophet Elijah, asked God to bring a famine on the land due to Jezebel's influence on Ahab and them worshiping Baal. So God brings a drought to the land, and I think you guys know about him drinking from a brook until the brook dried up, and then the ravens brought him food, and then the story with the lady and about to bake the bread for her sons and die, and he's like, no, so he's a great prophet, and God did what he said because he was a righteous man, and God tells him, hey, you're gonna go back. He was like, yeah, let's go back, and he talks to Ahab, and he's like, bring the prophets of Baal, and I hate calling them that, the worshipers of Baal, and I, the sole one left standing up for the one true God, God of Abraham, Isaac, I am going to have a little competition. We're going to dig a trench in the earth, set a wood on fire, but only by calling on your God. And so there was 400 different prophets of Baal. And backstory, the prophets of Baal were known to actually go under the altar in their little temples, and when people would pray to Baal, whatever, they would actually the people underneath would light a fire. Another thing is that Baal was known as the fertility god or whatever, and so one of the reasons why Tamar and spiritual or biblical scholars stated that Tamar was sitting outside of a temple of Baal waiting for Judah to come by. She knew that he would because he was gonna sleep with a prostitute for fertility of his land, so that's how they connect. And then we're going to mention Gomer, who is in Hosea, and Hosea was told to go marry someone because they were committing adultery similar to the Israelites, worshiping other gods, having idols other than the one most high God, and putting other things ahead of them, other gods, idols ahead of them, taking on the culture of those around them and eating their rice cakes. So kind of how these stories connect is very interesting. But back to Jezebel. Jezebel, she comes from Tyre and now modern day Lebanon, and they worship Baal. And so she was huge on that. We're going to talk about her daughter at the end as well, who was one nasty little lady. But anyways, so back to the fire. There is this competition, and Elijah wins. As a matter of fact, he shows out. God shows up and shows out because he doused that wood 3 times with water, and it's still lit, and theirs didn't. So Elijah ends up saying, hey, grab all of Baal's people. I think it was 420 something. It was over 400 of them, and they're killed. And the people are like, oh, okay, this is the most high God. This guy is the one true God. And in that, Elijah goes to Mount Carmel, and he prays for rain again to end the drought. But Ahab goes back and tell his wife what had happened, and Jezebel ain't having none of it, and so she threatens to kill him. If what you did to my prophets, I'm gonna do to you. And so Elijah runs, and he's in depression. Woe is me, God, woe is me. I'm no better than my fathers. And, God sends an angel, said, hey, eat, go. And he traveled for 40 days, rest again. And God said, okay, go get your number 2, Elisha. So Elisha had encounters with Jezebel as well, and he actually prophesies her death, which comes true in 2 Kings. I put it on here, like, he was like, your body will basically be so ingrained in the earth, you're going to die, and people won't even be able to differentiate between you and the field. And that happens. And that's in 2 Kings 9:30-37. So Jezebel is a spirit of manipulation. I did a video about her, or about that spirit. It is not just a woman, it is in men as well. And all of these are in men too. So be careful of the spirit of Jezebel. They like to control, and unfortunately they have power, and they have a love of power, and that is very dangerous when you don't have your heart right, when you're of poor character. The next one is Delilah, the love of money, the love of mammon. So Delilah, she loved money more than she loved this judge. He was a judge for Israel for 20 years, and he's very similar to John the Baptist, as when his mom was pregnant with him, they were advised, hey, he will not drink of wine, he will live a righteous life. So he was prophesied about as well in the womb. And he had this great strength. And he was good at killing Philistines. So they wanted to know how he get this great strength. And so his little love for women knocks him off his feet, because this heifer, she comes to him. He tells her a story about where his strength comes. She goes back and tells it to his enemies. They come and try it, and it doesn't work. So why do you keep telling this girl your stuff? And then finally, I guess she didn't put it down so well. You tell the truth, and you lose your vision. There's so many morals to the story about loving someone who loves something else more than you. There's so many morals to this story about keeping company that's not equally yoked with you, fellowshipping, fornicating, marrying, having a partnership, a relationship. There's different when you're mentoring someone and you're pouring into someone. You have to set boundaries and understand the relationship per God's advice, per the Holy Spirit. But Samson, you weren't supposed to be messing with no Delilah. Should have did like your daddy said and pick somebody from your own clan. Well, that's neither here nor there, because Samson lost his birthright. He lost his vision. He lost his seat as a judge, and he lost his life trying to rectify or redeem himself. And it's crazy. He was mad at the Philistines or the Philistinians, but he should have been mad at that girl, the girl who betrayed him. As a matter of fact, let me take that back. Be mad at yourself, baby. When somebody keeps showing you their true colors over and over and over again, and she showed it blatantly well, no confusion, no trickery. She was talking about you loving her, not she loving you. Blame yourself. So the only one I could think of from the New Testament, a woman of poor character anyways, that was not necessarily redemptive, because we know the Samaritan woman. We know about my girl Mary, but they all were redemptive. They all redeemed themselves. And hey, there is no condemnation in those who are in Christ Jesus. But we're going to go to this Herod, because she ain't. And, I'm sorry, Herod's wife, Herodias. She's actually the daughter of some priest or something like that. And she got a beef. She had a beef with John the Baptist, because she was married to Herod's half-brother. He was married to somebody else as well. And then they got together. And John said, that ain't about the right. That is not of righteousness. He's speaking against it. And she was salty. She was mad. So she tried to get her husband, spirit of Jezebel, she tried to get her husband to go out and kill John the Baptist. And spirit of revenge, really. Love of revenge. And he was not having it. Herod was like, John has too much of a following. His people are going to be mad at me. I ain't going to be able. I can't help you, boo. So on Herod's birthday, Herodias' daughter, it was like Samil or something, Samole, whatever. She does this little dance for her stepdad / uncle, because she is from the first marriage. She is from Herod's half brother with Herodias, and so she's dancing for her stepdad / uncle, and he's all impressed. And he's like, "What kind of gift you want?" Here come that manipulative spirit. Here come that spirit of revenge. Herodias says, "Tell him to give you John's head on a platter," and Herod does it. So what the Bible doesn't go into, but historians have noted, is that Herod tried to stir up some more beef. Spirit of revenge. She tries to get her husband to beef with another leader of a triarchy or tetrarchy, whatever. Rome would allow like the Jewish priesthood or kingships of 4 areas, basically like a governorship. And she tried to get her husband to beef with another one, and Rome was not having it, and so they were exiled. Be careful who you marry. God don't like ugly, baby, and he ain't too fun or cute. And that person that you marry, who you're trying to, because you're so in love and you're trying to make sure they're happy, it's taking you outside the will of God, you will lose what you have. You better ask Herod, because he was exiled, lost his power, lost his home, everything, for a heifer who he shouldn't have been with. Should have listened to John the Baptist instead of cutting his head off. Amen. So the next person is Gomer. She's in the book of Hosea. He was a minor prophet. And I actually heard this from like a preacher, the story, and I was flabbergasted. I was like, oh my God. God told a man to marry an adulterer, to marry a prostitute? Where they do that at? Like, what do you do when God sends you to somebody who ain't no good? And he told him, he was like, listen, Israel, they've been embarrassing me. We married, and they out here committing adultery with all these other idols, loving other people, other gods than me. So you finna learn how it feels. Go marry her. I'm sorry, God. Go marry that thought over there. And he does. And God tells him what to name the children. He has a boy, then a girl. And God is like, we finna have problems, Israel. He's like, your next generation finna have problems with me because of your behavior. Is basically what it's saying. But God's heart, it's bigger than his anger. And in chapter 3, he tells Hosea, Hosea's wife had left him, by the way. She's gone back to thotting and bopping. She's gone back to turning them corners. And so God tells him, hey, you know what? My heart has softened towards Israel. Go back and get your wife and still love her. Even though she's at this hookah house, even though she has committed adultery on you, you've been nothing but loving, kind, nice to this woman. Go back to her and love on her. Show her my love. Ooh, God, don't send me that assignment my way, baby. Please. But Gomer represents the spirit of adultery, fornication, lust, your own pleasure. Then there are Lot's daughters, who reminds me of the story of Tamar a lot. They give this Eve Bayou kind of feel, where they're deciding they're so desperate and woe is me, the world has ended. Let's go be fruitful and multiply with our father. Let's get him drunk on wine. First, the first daughter goes, then the second. Who knows who Lot is, by the way? Ding, 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 ding. Bible study trivia. He's Abraham's cousin. And he was the one person in the city that Abraham begged God to search for somebody who's righteous. There was only one. So 2 men come by Abraham's house and say, hey, you gotta go. He don't want to, but they're like, you ain't got a choice. And some good story in that in Genesis. I need y'all to read that, because there was a whole situation where a man knocked on the door like, we want these men, we want to sleep with them. And he's like, no, you can have my daughters. If I was his daughter, I'd be like, I'm sorry, what? You said what now? So, yeah, there probably was some dysfunction in that family. How you gonna offer your daughter up to the men of the village who obviously wanted to sleep with other men? Probably was exposed to a lot. So anyways, Lot daughters, his daughters, and his wife, they run back in spirit of depression. Another bonus, Lot's wife, she looks back, turns into a pillar of salt. And like I said, that's the spirit of depression. It gets you stuck. She never moves from there, of course. She dies there. So Lot's daughter, spirit of desperation. So these girls think the world has ended, and they decided they're so desperate they're going to sleep with their dad. And they end up getting him drunk on wine 2 nights in a row. The first night, the oldest slept with them, then the youngest. And the oldest has a tribe, or has a son called Moab, and that's where the Moabites come from. The second one had a son as well named Ben Anam. You know what just came in my head? If they thought the world was dead, it was gone, how did they start tribes through their sons? Lord, what in the days of our lives. Anyways, now their sons did start big tribes. The Amorites came from the Ben Anam, or however you say his name, the second daughter. But the first one, she had a son named Moab who started the Moabites. Who knows who was a Moabite that's in the lineage of Jesus? My girl Ruth. She was a Moabitess. Anyways, so that is Lot's daughter, and I did an honorable mention Lot's wife. Spirit of desperation is the daughter. Spirit of depression is the wife. The next one, the last one, I call her Athalitha. Kind of looks similar to my sister's name. We gonna buy that in the name of Jesus. My sister's name is Talitha, but it looks like Athalitha. Homegirl was Jezebel's daughter. And baby, did she have Jezebel's spirit. Athalitha's son was king of Israel for a bit of time, and he died. And instead of her honoring the line of succession, she decides, I'm gonna kill it. I'm gonna murk everybody here. Cousins and all, first cousin, second cousin, whoever family is, you're dead. And people got wind to it and took one of those in line named Joash and hid him in God's temple for about 7 years. She heard about it and she was not here for it. She did a whole coup. She reigned for 7 years. Then they did a coup back and she was successfully kicked out, dethroned, and killed. But baby had murdered her whole family because, and she went back and reestablished Baal as like the law of the land, honoring that false god or whatever, like her mom did. Like she was a piece of work, piece of pie. To read more about Athalitha, you can go to 2 Kings chapter 11, verses 1 through 3, and then 13 through 21. But yeah, that is all of the women of poor character in the Bible who did not redeem themselves whatsoever. So we have Jezebel, who is the spirit of manipulation through power, and she has resources to do so. There's the spirit of Delilah, who worships Mammoth, who loves money, things. There is the spirit of Herodias, who has the spirit of jealousy. I'm sorry, not jealousy, revenge. Herodias is revenge. Gomer is the spirit of adultery, fornication, idolatry, loving other gods, loving pleasure. And then we have Lot's daughters, the spirit of desperation. Lastly, there's Athalitha, who definitely has the spirit of Jezebel, power manipulation, of course, serving as queen mother and then reigning as queen, giving off those Cersei Lannister kind of vibes completely. But she is the spirit of jealousy and envy. She wanted what her son had, and once he died, she took it, and she was like, ain't nobody else having it. So those, honorable mention, we have Tamar, spirit of pettiness, of course, and desperation. We have Rahab, the spirit of betrayal, and she redeemed herself. I liked Rahab. And then we have Lot's wife, the spirit of depression. So those are the poor characters. Those are characteristics of those who are not truly trusting in God. I definitely pray for you, just like I pray for myself. We all struggle with different parts of these. And once you slay your flesh and die and fast and give yourself over to